Hello, everybody. My name is Joe Russo, and I am the founder CEO of a tech startup here in West Palm Beach focused on home security. And previous the last couple of years, I've been working in 911 technology, building AI for 911 centers, police, fire, all around the country. Can you hear me now? Okay, perfect. It's right up here. There we go. So, a little bit about the panel. I'm going to have them introduce themselves, but from my closest to farthest down, we have Sean Malinowski, who's the former chief of detectives from LAPD. We have Melissa Hyatt, who's the former police chief from Baltimore County. And Christopher Carothers, the current Undersheriff of Miami-Dade County, hence the uniform today. But we're going to get started and go through introductions. And in addition to saying who you are, in one word, give us what is the biggest innovation in policing in the last 5 years. So tell a little bit about who you are and then the one word.
Okay, so I'm Sean Malinowski. I'm retired out of the Los Angeles Police Department, and now I run a nonprofit called the Policing Lab, and we provide technical assistance and training at no cost to cities. We go out and raise our own money, and then I can come in and bed teams to do all the things that I didn't have the ability to do at LAPD in terms of crime analysis and data infrastructure, and a lot of boring, nerdy, behind-the-scenes things that lead to crime reduction that we do for departments, and we've had great collaboration with Miami-Dade Sheriff's Department, with the city of Miami, with Chicago, Philly, Baltimore, and we kind of move around like that. So we'll do 3 years. We're in Miami-Dade, going to be 5 years. You know, it's a long time to be in somebody else's house, but they've been very welcoming to us. So I think in one word, and this is a bias I have, is autonomy in policing is probably going to be the biggest thing that we see, and I'll explain why.
Well, hi, everybody. I'm Melissa Hyatt. I did my career with the Baltimore City Police Department, was police chief in Baltimore County, vice president for security for Johns Hopkins Medicine and University, and most recently I was with the U.S. Marshals Service. Now, in my retirement capacity, I'm working with Sean at Policing Lab, so it's great to be here today. I'm going to take the one word and expand it just because why not? I would say AI, but its use in integrating into real-time crime centers, and I know we're going to talk about that.
So good morning, Chris Carothers. I'm the current Undersheriff for Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office. Very happy to be here and share in the discussion. My one word is probably real-time crime center or operations center.
All right, so autonomy, AI, and real-time crime centers. And that leads us to our next question, and Melissa, I'll direct this towards you. Can you help us set the stage here of what is the difference between 911, real-time crime centers, and then what the officers are actually doing in the field?
Yeah, absolutely. So these are all really components of one thing, and I'll explain how, and I'll give you an example. If someone is the unfortunate victim of a robbery, first thing they do is they're going to call 911, and a call taker is going to take that call. They're going to get information, suspect information on the victim, and they're going to categorize that call: police, fire, EMS. The call is also going to get prioritized, and then it's going to go over to dispatch, where it's going to get dispatched, depending on the jurisdiction, closest available unit. When that call then gets dispatched, two things are happening simultaneously. It's going to the officer, who I'm going to get back to in a second, and the real-time crime center. Part of why there's so much value in that real-time crime center is they will immediately begin utilizing the resources that they have in that real-time crime center. That could be everything from accessing CCTV cameras, drone footage, helicopter downlink, license plate readers, databases, gathering information and intelligence to help that responding officer get there more effectively. Hopefully, besides taking care of the victim, they have the ability to intercept the route of travel of the suspect. And then you have your police officer, the last component, the boots on the ground, the men and women that are out there doing the hard work every day, that are physically responding and will hopefully be able to bring the case to a resolution. And the last piece I would say, because I know we're here and Sean and the Undersheriff are both going to be talking about the PUG, the autonomous vehicle over there, that actually kind of doubles down in terms of efficiency, because it's bringing some of the resources of the real-time crime center out into the field to make the response even better.
Awesome. And if you didn't see, there is a Miami-Dade County police vehicle over there. That is the autonomous vehicle we're going to talk about a little bit today. But Sean, I want to pivot to you for a second. We talk a little bit about responsible AI and autonomy in policing in the 21st century, and people keep hearing about different technologies, AI in the help us decrypt what is responsible use of technology in policing look like here, and how does autonomy fit into that?
Yeah, so I can give you a personal example from the Los Angeles Police Department when we were very early on doing predictive policing. If you remember, when we were starting to use algorithm to predict crime, and we just thought we were getting better at our crime analysis game, and we really didn't feel the need to go out and talk to people about it. I mean, it was like there was nothing hidden about it, but we kind of, that came back on us in LA, and after we drove crime down pretty significantly, we did have civil rights groups that came back and said, wait a second, like that data is flawed, and you were over policing in certain areas, and this is like not on purpose, it was just over our heads, you know. So I learned a lot from that experience because we did a lot of good, but there was a lot of backlash too. So anything we do now, like using AI to do crime briefings or deploying this autonomous vehicle, which is really a courageous thing for a sheriff to do, to be the first one in the country to say, yeah, I'm gonna experiment with this autonomous technology. What Sheriff Rosie Cordero Stutz did is mandate that we spend 6 months in community relations. So a lot of times you would rush this thing into the field and it would be right in operations. The sheriff said, no, we're going to spend 6 months in community relations getting people used to it. And I think if you do that, then you're really going to find out what people's concerns are. And the same thing about AI. You know, the worst thing you can do is implement something with the right intention without consulting the community, and then they feel like you're trying to hide something, even if that's not your intent. So the big lesson out of this is get the input from the community on the front end, because it's going to end up with a better product with more guidelines and more guardrails. And in the end, you save a tool that you might lose if you don't do it right.
And this next question is going to go to the Undersheriff. And I'd like to get a little bit more tactical with some of the tools that you currently have in Miami-Dade County. How does the autonomous vehicle play into that? And what does policing really look like in a deployment of all of these technologies together?
So it's a great question. We're fortunate. Miami-Dade County, Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office is one of the larger agencies, certainly in Florida and the Southeast. We've been very progressive over time. We have amazing collaborations like Policing Lab. We have a very talented employee staff that is really interested in doing a good job. Over the years, we have invested in technology. So I feel over the last 5 to 10 years, we've been positioned well. But what I've seen, and with the suggestions and the support from our technological innovators, our industry folks, they're bringing so many fantastic ideas that support what we believe in South Florida, certainly Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office, is the basis of community relations. To Sean's point, you can do and say whatever you want to do, roll something out, but if there's no buy-in from the community, there has to be explanation, there has to be transparency, there has to be accountability. Crime stats are great, but if you don't have that understanding of the relationships and the support from the community, you have nothing. On our typical day, Melissa mentioned comms. It's incredible. With the technology that's there, we can get images shared with 911 calls. We can get images of an emergency. We can have drones respond. We currently don't have a DFR, drone as first responder program, but the sheriff is actively aware of that and probably going to pivot to that in the coming months and years to have a very robust drone as first responder program. We have over 2,000 square miles in Miami-Dade County to look at, from the Everglades to the ocean. Each area is very, very specific, you could imagine. So from missing children or missing elderly to crisis incidents, it's a pretty demanding job. Without the relationships and the technology that we get to utilize, we would not be as effective, nowhere near as effective or successful as we are down in Miami-Dade right now. The PUG is really probably the greatest innovation that we have, technology that we can share with the public. It's so visible, it's friendly. People see tech and maybe they're a little bit afraid. It's not self-deployed. We're using it, to Sean's point, in a very controlled way at the exact moment, but eventually the concept and in practice will save us patrol hours. We can use it for special events, we can use it for community engagement, and also some practical intelligence in terms of high crime area. So it's amazing, and I'm very thankful with the collaboration that we've had with Policing Lab.
And Sean, I would love one if you can give us a little bit of the acronym of what is the pug, because we've heard it a couple times, we haven't defined it. And then let's talk about what is the inception of that? Like, where did that come from? How did this collaboration come about?
So the pug is the police unmanned, or it could be police uncrewed ground vehicle. So we purposely call it the pug. We don't call it the Rottweiler, or something, because I always thought it was funny when they develop a new tactical team and they call it the Scorpion team, and I'm like, yeah, we're gonna have problems. But pug is a little more approachable, and what it is, it's an autonomous vehicle platform that can give us up to 8,000 hours of patrol. And one of the things that we know from research is that if you have a visible presence of a guardian out there, that you can have a reduction in crime. And most people complain they don't see the police enough. And so anything we could do to get exposure out there and presence in the community is a plus. And then we also have cameras on this thing that they're not going to be out there videotaping constantly, but if something alerts, the vehicle alerts on a situation like AI can identify somebody with a gun, will alert the on-duty police so we get a human in the loop. And then we have a drone on there that can go up to 150 feet and give us situational awareness. But the main thing is, if you think of it, it's a mobile decoy. Essentially is rolling around in the areas. We've done a good job of identifying where crime is and where we need to be to prevent crime. But it's very difficult to put deputies there because we're all down. Like throughout the country, down 25-30% in police. And even the on-duty officers who work 2,000 hours a year are only giving us about 300 hours of directed patrol. So I can get 8,000 out of this vehicle where it's driving around, acting as a deterrent, and collecting information on what's happening in the environment.
That kind of leads really well into the next question I have lined up here, and this is for everybody, whoever would like to chime in on it. And how do you balance trust, privacy, and just collaborating with the community in an effective way in an era where everyone's fearful of AI and technology and who's watching what and where and all of that? Like, how do you advance these technologies with trust?
All right, well, I'll jump in. So it's a great question, and I think the Undersheriff hit on it with transparency. It's so critically important to bring the community in, for them to understand the limitations of what this is getting used for them to have faith in the organization, that there are going to be strict protocols put in place, checks and balances, there will be supervisors ensuring that there's accountability, and particularly that understanding that there are not going to be computers making operational decisions for police officers, that this is a tool like many other tools, but it has to be used appropriately. And in drafting those measures of accountability, making sure that there are shared community values are incorporated in that.
I would only add, at least speaking for Miami-Dade, is it's just the area. It works. The technology works well because most people are very comfortable and expect a high level of safety. We do many special events. We're one of the host cities for FIFA coming up, but from Formula One to regular football, it never ends. So when you're in that environment, you can only be so transparent. We're very visible as a deterrent, but we have to force multiply, and the tech allows us to do that. On the relationship side, obviously, you have to have a foundation of trust building with the community to have legitimacy. That part is true. But on the safety side, that has to come before the service. And it's related to service, but the safety is paramount. And the tech that's out there now is incredible. We're still playing catch-up, even though we're considered a fairly progressive agency, thankfully. It's just an incredible time to see the innovation that's coming every year. It's remarkable. And the conversations I had this morning, even from potential uses of increasing water safety, all the way to our comms to better and more quickly tier responses. Because if you can get more efficient and still deliver the high accountability, then you have a winning formula always. And that's what I've seen so far. And I'm very thankful. I can't say enough about Sean and his team and Policing Lab to help guide us. We needed a push a few years ago, and we just transitioned to the sheriff's office down there. For 66 years, we've been a metropolitan form of leadership and government down in Miami-Dade, and the sheriff was not a constitutionally independent office. It just happened last year, and has given us the autonomy, back to Sean's word, to kind of embrace this at a higher scale and a higher level to get better results and keep Miami-Dade much more safe than it ever has been.
I'll tell you what, we had a discussion earlier about when we were over by the vehicle about trying to prevent crime from happening. And so when we're deterring crime, when I had my own districts, I had officers and I would try to get them to prevent crime, be in the right place at the right time to deter it. But officers are rewarded for making arrests, you know, so they would go out to the area and they'd find somebody that they thought was capering and they'd arrest that person, and now they're in the station for 3 hours. And I have a use of force or something, and that doesn't help me that much. So what the vehicle does for us is it's out there, it's not going to stop someone, it's not going to set us up for liability in that way, but it's going to prevent crimes from happening, because these criminals who are doing property crime, they're not serial killers, you know, they're easy to disrupt. And if they see they're capering, going to steal your catalytic converter, and they see a vehicle coming down the street, that might be enough for them to opt out for the night. And that's all we're trying to do. Just keep disrupting that crime with presence.
And any great innovation in government always starts with a pilot. I think the joke I always tell is if you came to somebody years ago and said, hey, we're going to have a DFR RFP, they were going to be very curious what the heck you're talking about, because nobody even thought about drones, let alone the acronym for drones. So when we're thinking about the PUG for Miami-Dade County, how do you imagine that setting the stage for some better validation, expanding this unique application of technology in policing, and where it goes from here? And maybe does it expand beyond just policing?
Yeah, so we only decided to build this as an experiment for our nonprofit because we found we didn't have enough patrol hours, and we're looking for another way to do it. Now, it turns out when we did the launch in October, we've had dozens of agencies call us, and they want to experiment in different places. So we're building one for Florida International University, and we're going to hook up with their robotics department, and that'll be like a learning opportunity for people to work on the vehicle, and other parts of the university are also going to work on policy and things. So that is one. And then we have private security. We have Dallas-Fort Worth Airport and San Francisco Airport, and Phillips 66 call this. They have oil facilities that they have trouble maintaining security on. And so there's a lot of things that we weren't even thinking of that are coming in terms of use cases. And I think a lot of this is going to be campuses, and that could be retail locations, and it could be major events where, we have the Olympics coming up, and we're from Los Angeles Police Department. The Olympics is going to be out there. We're talking to them about deploying some of these out in the perimeter. There's a lot of use cases for executive protection. Some of the incidents that occurred in the last couple of years with attempts on political officials could have been mitigated by having a vehicle like this with thermal out there looking for suspects who are lying in wait or on rooftops. So there's a lot of applications. I don't think we're going to really know about those until we get into some of these other places. And there's a lot of interest right now. So we may be in other cities doing tests, and we might be in other countries. We have people from Brazil to London to Paris that are interested in doing some version of this. So that's kind of where we're going to have multiple tests over the next few years.
You can do it on electric vehicles as well as gas, right?
We could. In fact, the NYPD has a few EV Blazers that are already set up. It helps us. If it's an EV vehicle, it's a little easier to make it drive-by-wire. And then there's a lot of applications for it in retail security, because even when this thing is parked over a pad getting charged, and we can put the drone up, you're still getting deterrent effect for that area while you're charging. So I think the EV Blazer, there's a police version of that, would be a good one. And then we also have a Ford E-Transit van, which we're building out into a little mobile command post. So it's out there providing deterrence, but then when you have an incident, it's already en route, and we can run the event out of the back of that van.
And one more question to the Undersheriff here. Generically, what's been the response in the department, the community, from officials inside of the Miami-Dade government? Like, how are people responding to this, and how are you making sense of here's this experiment that is coming to life?
Generally, the easy answer is very positive. When this was happening, we were, as I mentioned before, transitioning to sheriff. So we were drinking from a fire hose. There was a lot of stuff coming at us. And so, I respect and I'm thankful for the courage that Sean cites that Sheriff Rosie had down there in the middle of a storm, to kind of really settle down and say, it's not just about now, it's about looking ahead. And I think the community mostly has embraced that approach. And as we introduce it and have it more on public activation, we get a great response. And we've received emails, we receive letters, we get, I would say, a sincere and genuine interaction with the public, with the pub.
And I have one more question, but before, we have a few minutes if anybody has any questions that they would like to ask. Yes?
So the question was, can the vehicle interact with the public? And so it's interesting you say that, because when we do the FIU version, it's something they specifically asked for, and it's something the sheriff would like as well. So we are building it's like a kiosk in the rear passenger window on the curbside, that you'll be able to come up and hit a button so you can flag it. The vehicle's only probably going to be patrolling at 5 to 10 miles an hour. So we have an e-stop, and you would hit that thing, and then there's a panel. It's an all-in-one computer touchscreen, and you can, what we would do is hook that up to 911 or to the real-time crime center, so you could have two-way communications. But that's very much in a test mode right now. We have a Tahoe in the shop, and they're building something new. But we're hoping to get there because people really want that. Yeah, that's a good question. It's hard to say. Oh, the question, I'm sorry, was what's the cost of the vehicle, and is there cost in terms of infrastructure that needs to be spent? And the cost of the vehicle, I mean, I can tell you what this vehicle cost, but it was the number one, and we did everything twice. I mean, to be honest with you, we learned a lot from this one. So this one cost us maybe $500,000 to build, but that's when you're putting a system in and taking a system out and trying a steering actuator. So what you have to do is we take a regular Ford Explorer, and you have to turn it into a drive-by-wire vehicle, which is a difficult process, and you have to custom make every actuator. So we have to custom design a steering actuator and put a redundant one in, and then we have to do that for brake and throttle, and then you have to hook up LiDAR, radar, visual camera, and satellite, so that the perception the vehicle has controls those actuators. So it's one of the most difficult scientific problems, is to navigate on the ground with a vehicle. All the scientists will tell you it's a tough one. And so that's what it cost us. As far as ongoing infrastructure, we have software that will integrate into, it's an open AI that will integrate into existing systems. So the only ongoing cost is going to be a subscription update cost that we don't really know what that would cost yet. We're donating that to Miami-Dade. But basically for software downloads, both on the robotics and on the situational awareness material. But other than that, unless you were going to go electric and you had to put chargers in, it's just like any other vehicle. So you would the garage would do the maintenance on that, and we would do the maintenance on all the surveillance and robotics.
And you're building it like a kit, right? So you can retrofit any type of vehicle. Ideally, it's something that you've done before and you can be very consistent about.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, part of the reason this cost so much money to do the first one is more like a prototype, and they had never done a Ford Explorer before. So next time we do it, it'll take less time and it'll be cheaper. And we're only going to offer it on a Ford Explorer, on a Chevy Tahoe. Those are the two main police vehicles that are out there. And we got the Tahoe in progress now. So I have to say, when we look at the Tahoe, you're going to probably want a Tahoe at some point, because it's going to look a lot cleaner. And this will look like a Frankenstein monster at some point. But it's the first one, and the sheriff stepped up and said, I want to be the first one in the country. And so we're delivering on that.
It's funny. The West Palm Beach police chief was out here yesterday talking about it, and I was saying, they have an autonomous vehicle. It's the one without the officer at the intersection over here, stopping everyone from running the light. So this is just the new iteration of that. It is. We have one question over here.
So the question is, when the vehicle's out patrolling, what kind of intelligence can it send back? So the vehicle, besides its navigational stuff, has 4 Axon cameras on it, and those are the same as the body-worn type, but they're dash cams, and they have a 4K video capability and a license plate recognition. And then we have a drone that's tethered that has a visual camera and a thermal camera. So in that scenario, if you're looking for somebody like either a suspect or you're looking for a missing kid out in a field or in a park, we put the drone up, and even at night we can see that heat signature. We're not going to be videotaping. Way too expensive and intrusive to be videotaping the whole time. But what we would do is set up the software so it would alert on something. So, you know, there's technology out there that can spot a weapon or an anomaly in the environment, and then it would turn the video on. And that would be set up at the real-time crime center or the watch commander's office, so somebody would be always monitoring that, a human in the loop.
And just for context, think of a real-time crime center like the command center of a police department. It's staffed by officers. They have all the tools. They have all the software. We talked a little bit about it before, too, but like visualize like if you're in a movie command center, maybe not all the bells and whistles as Hollywood would put in there, but they do have a lot of really great tools. We have one last question for the panelists. They're going to hang around here for another minute, too, if anybody in the crowd has one more thing to say. But in the next 5 years, right, we're thinking future here, what does policing look like with all of the different tools, AI, autonomous devices? What does it all look like and come together? And would love to hear everybody's individual opinion.
Maybe to make light, all the movies I grew up with as a kid all come to life already. So, you know, it's amazing to me. It blows my mind, you know, how amazing, you know, the mission is. But the policing mission hasn't changed, right? So you have to keep people safe, and you serve the public. And so using tech to support that is great. I think in the future, you won't be in business. You won't have a good success pattern if you're not highly efficient and highly accountable. And the tech supports those missions in the safety and service area for agencies. So,
you know, the only thing I would really add to that is in becoming more effective and more efficient, part of it is also not only making our communities safer statistically, but through opportunities and technology like the autonomous vehicle being able to impact the perception of safety. And we know from the many community meetings we've all been in during our careers that that perception of safety is just as important as the statistical safety. So focusing on that and continuing to work closely with our communities. As I said before, this isn't something law enforcement can do alone. It has to be done in concert with the community.
Yeah, and what I would say is what we have to do is always have a human in the loop right now, because, you know, a lot of the AI is getting away from that, and we're pulling people. But when it comes to law enforcement, you really can't afford to do that. I mean, you can alert, and I think we should. We have a lot of sensors out there, and we have a lot of intelligence coming in, and you can alert a human. But I think we all agree we would want a human decision maker before any force is taken, before any action is taken. And that's what we're learning now, is like, how do we figure out a way to take all the information we have and present it in a digestible form to a human decision maker? And so that's what a lot of the AI stuff that we're doing now will present to a human decision maker.
I'll say one of the coolest moments of my life last year was going into LAPD 911 and seeing the sheer mass of information of 108, or I think it's 160 call takers that they have just in LA, and all of those millions of calls coming in. So there's so much information. The more that we have technology, the better it can be for communities, the better it could be for folks like this who are working to protect everybody every day. So thank you all for doing what you do, doing what you've done, and for being a part of the panel today.
thank you.
Thank you, and we'll be around if people I think there's some people that had questions on the side.